Hi, guys. Oh my God. Hi, guys. Welcome back to Girl Therapy. I'm your host, Nicole. Thank you so much for coming back this week. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's just jump into some quick updates. Yeah, so this weekend, I am going to be heading into New York City and we're getting Haley married. I'm so freaking excited. She's getting married in Brooklyn. I still have yet to try on my dresses, but everything's going to be fine. And I couldn't be more excited. I haven't been to New York City in probably since actually December. So it's been a minute. I hope the weather's good. And I'm just really excited to be with all my really close friends and family. It's going to be a great time. I am going to be in a hotel room with my mother. So I actually scheduled a therapy session for Thursday because I was like, I'm gonna need a little prep. Being in the same space with her, and if she's listening, I know she's like, oh, this is so mean. It's not me being mean. It's just, it's our moms, you know. Oh my God, T's like having a friggin' panic attack right now. Every time I hop on the mic, it's like the zoomies come out. I don't know what her problem is. She just wants attention. There's a lot of work to be done within that relationship on both ends. So I will do my part, but let's see if she does hers. Our families can be really hard to deal with. Those relationships are hard to navigate, and our parents are who they are. They're at ripe ages, and a lot of the times it's hard for them to change their ways, or they've just haven't, done the work themselves, or you also don't know what traumas they carry and stuff like that. But they have to deal with those things, and I'm here putting in the work. So let's see where we get at. Hopefully that's something that can improve, but that's kind of like the next thing that I need to tackle, because I'm feeling really good in a lot of areas of my life. I started horseback riding again, so I just found a farm. It's about 50 minutes away, and that's been really nice, just to like find things that fuel my inner child and fuel my soul, and just are just fun. There's not really much of a reward from that except for fun. Like, I'm not making money. It's actually costing me money. There's nothing except pure joy that I get from that, and you can't put a price on that. And that's just something that's really making me happy. If there's something that you want to try, something that you want to get back into, I really encourage you to do so, because being there on that farm for the couple hours that I just felt so carefree. It's like another thing that I'm just doing for myself. Make your life exciting. Make it something that you look forward to. I really do encourage you to try new things. So that's like a little update there. I am still sober. That's been an amazing journey. I would love to do an episode if you guys have questions about that. Maybe I could do a whole episode just about how that journey has been for me and why I decided to do that, how it's been going for me, especially with social settings and holidays coming around. I would love to speak about that. Another update, I am going to get my tattoos removed. Guys, I'm like going through, I'm actually like reversing what I went through. Some people have been like, well, why are you getting them removed? Like, is there a story, blah, blah, blah. And it's just kind of like, I was just younger. I wasn't really thinking long term. And I know, like, at that time, the tattoo artist was like, are you sure you're going to have these for life? And I'm like, yes, of course, I'm sure. And then looking at them now, I'm like, I don't know if I want to get married in these. And I don't know if these carry the message of like who I am now. I get that it's a history and it's a past and it is a part of who I am. But at the same time, there's some of these tattoos that I look at and I'm like, I got that for no reason. And I got that at a point in my life when I was going through something and just wanted to feel something. And I'm not there anymore. Like, I'm not like tied to any of them. So I looked into getting them removed. I had a consultation and that went really well. So I'll keep you guys updated on that journey, because I'm sure it's going to be painful, but it's going to be worth it. And I'm really excited to like go back to factory settings. Like, literally, I feel like a lot of this also has to do with my faith and just becoming more aligned with like me and my purpose and everything. Like, I was just trying to do like band-aid quick fixes, like things that just gave me that adrenaline rush, things that gave me dopamine hit, things that made me just feel good in the moment and made me feel something and made me feel excited. I wasn't putting work in on my interior. I've always been a little bit rebellious, and I'm a very like free spirit type of person, but there's ways to be that type of person and not have to get a tattoo, right? Like, I think that I was seeking like some sort of exterior image to feel something on the interior. I realized I don't need the tattoos to be that free spirited person, if that makes sense. I don't need the tattoos to be that bold person. I also feel like they were partially like an armor, and I wanted to be this like tough girl. It's like part of my like little emo side, and I'm really leaning into like my soft side and my faith and I just feel like I've evolved as a person and I'm just totally different from who this person was. So I've decided to get them removed, and yeah, I'm excited for that journey. Those are like pretty much all my updates. I'm glad T has finally calmed down. Today we're going to talk about navigating negative thoughts, because I was listening to Joe Dispenza. If you guys don't know who he is, look him up. He's incredible. Every time I listen to one of his podcasts, like my mind is blown. He said something that I was like, this just changed my life. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean that it's true. If you believe your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, your life's not going to change very much, because the same thought leads to the same choice, and the same choice leads to the same behavior, and the same behavior creates the same experience, and the same experience produces the same emotion. Wow. And I feel like that's why so many of us get stuck in the same cycles, or maybe we don't evolve, or maybe we don't learn the lesson, or maybe we keep making the same mistakes. And it's because we keep repeating old behaviors that are going to cultivate the same experience. We keep repeating the same thoughts that are going to keep telling us the same thing about ourselves, that it's going to hold us back. So then we're maybe not going to go for something new or try something new, or change our behavior because we're afraid, because we don't know the outcome. So we stick to what we know. And then if we continue to stick to what we know, we're going to live a very limited life. We're going to just experience the same things. And even if it's negative, it doesn't matter, because sometimes believing the negative things is easier. Sometimes staying in the bad relationships is easier. Sometimes not having the conversation, not confronting somebody is easier. So we choose not to do those things. But when we don't do those things, we don't allow ourselves to grow. We don't allow ourselves to evolve. And we now fill our brain with more negativity. And negativity is just going to produce more negativity. I really want us to focus on today just rewiring our brains and having a more positive mindset, because as humans, we want to be negative. Our minds are always going to the negative. I think it's just like something in our survival instinct, where we're always looking for danger around us. We're always looking for things that could happen. And that's, some people have it more severe, and that's anxiety. It's like constantly thinking about the bad things that could happen. But it's like things can go wrong, but what if they don't? What if things work out? And that's what I really want to focus on today, is like, yeah, our initial thought whenever we're thinking about something, maybe we're scared to get into a relationship, maybe we're scared to go for the interview, maybe we're scared to go up to somebody, maybe we're scared to try the new hobby or the new activity, and because we're thinking, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if I get rejected? Okay, but what if you don't? What if it does work out? Or what if you do get rejected, but then you gain something else and you learn something, and now you have the confidence? There's always something to be gained. But we hold ourselves back with the negative thoughts a lot of the times, because then we get in our head and we're like, well, this person probably doesn't like me, and that's why they haven't reached out to me, and blah, 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 blah. And it'll never work out anyways. So then you self-sabotage something that could have been really special. And I think that's the worst thing. It's like we can be our own biggest enemies. We just don't have time for that. Their life is too short. We just don't have time to be our own biggest enemies anymore. There's something called cognitive behavioral therapy. I honestly don't know much about this, but this is about turning negative thoughts into positive and just managing negative thoughts. So we're going to learn about it today together. I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to tell me about it, and we're kind of just going to learn together, and we're just going to talk through it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the techniques that we can use and the cognitive behavioral therapy principles. So these principles and techniques basically aim to help individuals understand and change their thought patterns and behaviors. Key principles of cognitive behavioral therapy. 1. Cognitive model. Cognitive behavioral therapy is based on the cognitive model, believes that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are interconnected. Negative or disordered thoughts can lead to negative emotions and maladaptive behaviors. By changing one's thoughts, it is possible to alter feelings and behaviors. And we all know that. It's like whenever you wake up in a bad mood or you have a negative thought, all your behaviors, whether you know it or not, are almost catering to that negative thought, and you're creating that experience in your outer world. Your inner world will create your outer world. Your thoughts create your reality. So it's like, I've said this before, but whenever you're in a bad mood, you're having a bad day, or something's going wrong, it starts to have a domino effect in the rest of your day, and you have a negative outlook on everything that happens. Whereas if you're having a positive day and something bad happens, we don't look at it as really something bad. If you're like in a really happy mood, right? And you drop something or you spill something, and you're just like, oh my God, like that was so silly, like ha ha ha, laugh it off. And now you're like, well, I guess I can just like make a new one or get a new one, or I didn't really want that anyways. Whereas if you're in a bad mood and that happens, it's like, oh my God, like everything's going wrong. Of course that happens. I'm so angry, blah, 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 blah. Or it's like if you're in a good mood and you miss your train or you miss your bus or you miss something, you're kind of just like, oh, well, you know what? Like, at least now I have some extra minutes to do this or to do that. We look at things glass half full when we're feeling glass half full. But when we want to look at things glass half empty, we can easily do that too if we're in a bad mood. When you have negative thoughts of it's like you maybe are like, oh, like I'm not going to get this job because I'm just not good enough. And you start telling yourself that. And then there's a bunch of little things that maybe you do leading up to the interview to self-sabotage. Like maybe now you're putting a little less effort into your outfit, or you don't really prep because you feel like you're not going to get it anyways. And all these little things are going to lead you to not ultimately getting the job because you already told yourself the story that you weren't going to get it. So then you did everything to make sure that that was true and you weren't going to get it. You just got in your own way. Yes, any like disordered thoughts can then become disordered actions and lead to negative behaviors. There's a couple more things about the principles, but I don't think we need to get much into it. I want to get more into the techniques. So the first one is cognitive restructuring. So this technique involves identifying and challenging cognitive distortions. Clients learn to examine their thoughts, evaluate the evidence for and against them, and reframe them to a more balanced and realistic perspective. Basically saying when you have a negative thought, have the thought, think about it, and then find the evidence that that thought is true. And a lot of the times there isn't evidence. A lot of the times our evidence is just based on assumptions that we've made up and not actual evidence. So find the evidence that's for and against you and put it into now a new perspective that is maybe practical, if that makes sense, like less emotion driven and a more balanced and realistic perspective, and not like a perspective that's coming from your enemy, which is yourself. But it's like sometimes we literally have the perspective of a bully against ourselves. The next one, thought records. Clients keep a journal of their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This helps them recognize patterns and identify cognitive distortions. A typical thought record includes columns for the situation, automatic thoughts, emotions, evidence for and against the thought, and a more balanced thought. Okay, this is great. This is actually really good, and this is something that I want to do. So if you're constantly having like the same thought of like, I am not enough, you would write that down. You could organize columns. So I'm going to do this as well when I finish this podcast, but it's like whatever that thought is, whatever that self-limiting belief is, the thoughts and emotions, the emotions behind that belief, and then the evidence, the next column for or against that. What is it that makes you feel that way? What is the evidence that you are not enough? And honestly, I have none. I have no evidence, but I guess I could really dig deep in the trauma and be like, when my dad left, right? Like maybe that's where that stems from. And then the more balanced thought afterwards, which would be like the contradicting thought to that, I actually am enough. So I actually really like this because it's something that you can then refer back to. And a lot of the times when we're having these negative thoughts, it's easier to get caught in that spiral and not just take a second to be like, wait, let me regroup. Let me go. And like I said, if in this case, you go and you look at actual things that you've written to yourself. Because if you've written these things to yourself and you've said them to yourself, it's a lot easier for you to believe, because it's like, wait, this time when I was feeling this, I was able to get myself out of this spiral. I was able to get myself out of this negative thought by saying this to myself. And this is the truth, right? Like the truth is not that I am not enough. The truth is that I am enough. So it's kind of good to like look at what triggers those thoughts. Am I feeling like I'm not enough when I get a negative comment? Am I feeling like I'm not enough when my video doesn't do well? Am I feeling like I'm not enough when I don't get the brand deal or they offer me a really low budget? Like things like that could trigger me that I'm not enough. And then the emotions behind that, why, like how that makes me feel. And it obviously doesn't make me feel great and X, Y, and Z, but it's like, but there's evidence that I am enough because I have great managers. I have amazing followers. I have a successful Instagram, TikTok, podcast, yada, yada, yada. This apartment in itself is enough evidence that I'm enough and I'm doing enough, because I'm able to live a very nice lifestyle, and I'm able to sit here and I can make peanut stir fry at 3 p.m. in the afternoon and I have freedom. That's just showing me that I am enough. It just means that, that opportunity wasn't for me. See, now I'm already feeling better. that was just a fake situation. I was like, wait, I just talked myself out of, I just gave myself a fake situation and then I just talked myself out of it. And that's exactly what you have to do. Is sometimes you just have to sit down and hype yourself up and be like, wait, look at all this evidence around me. The things that are happening in my brain are not true. They're not true. It's just where my brain goes initially. And I think what we want to do is do this enough. It should come to a point where it's automatic. As soon as you have that negative thought, which we're going to have, I don't think there's a world that exists in which we're never going to have negative thoughts, but we can learn to flip it around faster and we can have an automatic response to that. Where now instead of when that negative thought does come up, alarms can go off in your head or your body, or you can sit there and be like, okay, I just had the negative thought. What's the positive one? And you can immediately counteract that situation and maybe, not go into a deep spiral and maybe not feel the negative or sad emotions or the bad emotions that come with that thought. We can get ahead of the game there. That is actually such a fun, but that's such a good tool to have, is to maybe write down all the common negative thoughts that you have, or when you do have them, to write them down, and then write down everything, like you said, that you're feeling, like I just said, that you are feeling when you have that thought, and then the evidence for or against it, and then a thought or a phrase that counteracts the negative one that you just had, so that we can take a negative phrase and actually spin it into now something positive, which is the point of all of this. Okay, behavioral activation. This technique encourages clients to engage in activities that bring them joy or fulfillment. I love this. This is what I was just talking about at the beginning, doing more hobbies, doing things that more fill you with joy and make you feel full and just good. It is particularly useful for individuals with depression as it helps counteract withdrawal and inactivity. 100%. It's so easy also to get in your negative spiral and your negative head and everything like that when we're not doing activities, when we're maybe isolating ourselves, when we're staying in, when we're not enjoying life. I think it's really easy to forget about how good life is and how grateful you should be when you're not living life. When I used to just sit and rot in bed for days on end and not see people or talk to anybody, that just made me more sad. It wasn't going to ever make me more happy. I was never going to get out of my depression that way. It took forcing myself to do things that I enjoy, or to find things that I enjoy, and to hold myself accountable to do those things, because you are in control of your own happiness, your joy, your fulfillment, all these things. You are the narrator of that, and you have to go out and make those things happen for yourself. Feelings of joy are just going to bring more feelings of joy. If you start your morning with something that you love, you start your morning with a nice coffee, with a nice walk, you throw on your favorite podcast, your favorite song. I think that's huge. Putting on a good song in the morning to just get you in that mood, or saying your positive affirmations, move your body, dance a little bit. You're going to take that energy and that joy into everything else in the rest of your life. So you kind of actually are starting to have a little build up. It's almost like you're accumulating joy in your body, your happiness in your body, so you have a little reserve, so that when the negative things do happen, you can dip into that reserve and be like, actually, this didn't ruin my day. Actually, that thought isn't true. Actually, I don't have room for that negativity. Actually, I'd rather be more positive than negative. I'm not going to let that little thing ruin my day. And I have found that the more things that I've created in my life that I have to turn to, that I have to go to as almost like a little bit of a release, which is making jewelry, cooking, flower arrangements, horseback riding, playing sports, reading books, all these things fill me with joy, and they keep me in a really positive space, and they make me feel really good about myself. They make me feel closer to myself, which then makes me feel more confident. And when I'm feeling more confident, I'm just a happier person. When I'm feeling confident, I want to go do more things. And I also want to spread more positivity. And I think it's such a beautiful thing when you go out in the world, and because you're feeling good about yourself, and I heard this today, if you're okay, you're going to be okay with everybody. And if I'm feeling okay, I'm going to go compliment everybody. And it's not fake either. It's just genuinely, I want to talk to more people. I want to touch more people, not literally. I want to do more things for more people because I'm in a really good place. And then when you do that, you spread that joy onto other people. We love that. And sometimes people need that joy or whatever it is to make their day a little bit better, or to give them that little, thing that they need to then go about having a good day, because you don't know what's going on in anybody's brain. And maybe somebody was telling themselves like they didn't feel good that day, and maybe your little compliment will make them feel better. I'm getting off track here, but I didn't even have a coffee. Like, you think I'd have a coffee? I don't know why. I'm just like really rambling on. I've been feeling really good. I think it is all the activities or something. And like I cooked today, and I filmed, and I made content that I loved, and I went to the gym, and I did my Pilates class, and I cleaned, and I hung out with a friend, and I've just been like, it just made me feel really good. And now I'm excited to do this. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm like on drugs. I feel like I'm just like really happy. I just think like the more positivity and the more like positive things that you have going on and things that make you really happy is obviously just going to put you in a healthier headspace. And maybe it takes a minute too. It's not always like doing that one thing's going to cure you or cure everything. And sometimes it's going to feel like a job. Sometimes you're going to have to force yourself to like get out of bed, or to have the positive thoughts, or to look at yourself in the mirror and say the affirmations. And even when you don't want to believe them, even when you're feeling, bloated or sick, or you're having an ugly day, it's like, I'm actually beautiful, and my body's beautiful, and I accept it in every way, shape, or form. And it's totally normal to be bloated. And you know what? That doesn't define me. And my bloated stomach is beautiful. And I think just it's hard to look at yourself sometimes and say those things because you really don't believe them or feel them. Our brains are very powerful. Same with me when I look back at pictures that I used to feel really ugly in, or feel like I looked fat in, and then I look back at them, months later, and I'm just like, wait, I remember feeling like fat or ugly that day, and like I look gorgeous, and like I don't look fat at all. And it's amazing the power of your brain and your thoughts and everything can have in the moment, and really distort the image of yourself. It's like body dysmorphia to a whole different extreme. It's like brain dysmorphia or something, or like thought dysmorphia, where your negative thoughts can actually, you will see what it is that you're telling yourself. So it's going to be hard sometimes, but like the more that you practice it and the more that you say it, the more you're going to believe it. The more that you like show up for yourself, the more that you show yourself these things or say these things to yourself, the more you're going to trust yourself, and the more that you're going to believe them. And then those things are going to get reflected back to you, and people are going to reflect that same energy back to you too. Because whenever you have a negative thought about yourself and you put that out there in the universe, and maybe you say it to somebody, now they're going to notice it. Now they're going to think that thing about you. But if you're out here like talking highly of yourself in a very like humble way, of course, like let's not get too crazy with it. We're not narcissists here. But if you're just like, yeah, like, I feel really good, whatever, other people are going to be like, yeah, like, I don't even think you have to say it, honestly. If you just feel good, like I think that's going to be an energy that's like omitted off to you, and somebody will feel that and be like, wow, like you look really that today, or you're giving off this really great energy today, and you're just gonna be like, wow, like thank you so much. Exposure therapy, used primarily for anxiety disorders. Yes, I've heard about this. This technique involves gradual exposure to feared situations or objects in a controlled manner. The goal is to reduce avoidance and desensitize the individual to fear. So I guess this could help with feelings of, if you have a negative thought constantly and maybe it's hard for you to just get over that thing by telling yourself it isn't true, then I think exposure therapy could be great, because once you actually see the stone cold evidence or facts, then you're going to know that you have nothing to be afraid of. And then you can remember that moment when you have that same negative thought or whatever it is, to be like, actually, I'm safe and I'm okay. And that didn't happen to me. And just because I think that's going to happen doesn't mean that it's true, because I did that and it's not true. I think like this is really good for like rejection and stuff. Or for me, a little bit of my exposure therapy would be like times when I started to think like people were judging me, or I got afraid to just my job obviously is like film, and sometimes I film in public, and I'd be really hyper aware of like if people were looking at me or judging me or whatever, I'd think I'm weird. And I would have to just force myself to film, and it'd be really uncomfortable sometimes, like to film in front of people. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to use the back camera. Like yesterday I was filming something, and I was walking past somebody, and sometimes I randomly will be like, oh, like I don't want to film in front of them. But it's like, why? I'm never going to see this person again. I don't freaking care. And it's my job, like whatever. So I was walking past this person. It was a small walkway, and he was gonna have to see me just like I was filming, like back camera, like looking at myself talking. And I'm like, whatever, I'm not gonna stop filming just because I'm walking past this guy. And that was exposure therapy for me. And then after that, I was like, look, I'm safe, I'm fine. Maybe he judged me, who cares? I never have to see him again. What's he gonna go talk to somebody and be like, oh, I saw this girl filming herself today. Wow, have more shit going on in your life, bro. Like, nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like, that's completely fucking normal. So sometimes just forcing yourself to do the thing, because now I'm like, I don't even care if he is judging me, honestly, because I'm fine and I survived and I lived to see another day. And sometimes you just need to do that. You just have to do a little exposure therapy for yourself. Problem solving skills training. Clients learn a structured approach to solving problems, which includes defining the problem, brainstorming possible solutions, evaluating the pros and cons of each, and implementing the best option. I don't really know about that one. I think that's very like logical. This feels a little bit like of a dry way to solve something, because a lot of the times I think our negative thoughts are just really tied into emotion. So if you're able to look at it as like, you know, this is the problem that leads to this behavior. In this way, you're able to define what the problem is and kind of like get down to it, and then brainstorm a solution to like actually fix that problem. That one's kind of tough for me, guys, to be honest. I'm not really understanding the problem solving skills training. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques. So I think mindfulness is massive. This is something that I've actually been doing recently, because I used to do some guided meditations. I actually used to be a lot better at meditations, and it's hard. Like I remember when I started meditating, I was like, I'm not good at meditating. I used to tell myself that always. I just was like, I can't meditate. I can't sit still. That's not true. I can. And I think there's no really right way to meditate. I think if you're meditating, you're meditating. If that works for you, that works for you. I kind of was like, I'm not even gonna call it meditating. I'm just gonna sit in silence and just bask in silence for 5 minutes and see where my thoughts go. So I set a little timer and I just sit there. You can lay there, you can sit there, and it doesn't have to be I'm meditating. There's no specific thoughts that you need to have in that moment. There's nothing you have to focus on. I'm like, let me just enjoy the silence for 5 minutes and see where my brain goes. And I think that's a really good check-in to see where your thoughts are and what thoughts are popping up. Because then you're able to see like, what are the subconscious thoughts that are constantly going on in my brain? Like, what's constantly happening up there? When you kind of figure that out, you're kind of able to see why maybe you're doing certain things without knowing or realizing, why you're behaving in certain ways without knowing or realizing, because that's like your little narrator. So we don't even notice a lot of the times the negative thoughts that are happening. They're just there. We've gotten used to them. Maybe we don't even realize that they're negative thoughts. They're just like our normal, or they're our truths. So I think it's really good to just sit and see where your brain goes. And you don't even have to do anything. There's no like, I need to fix this problem. I think that's just a really good awareness. That's really good self-awareness. It's like, know what's happening up there. And then as time goes on, you're able to try to combat those things and hopefully, you know, come up with ways to deal with those and switch them into positive things. But mindfulness and just being really like taking those 5 minutes just to reset and to just, you know, basically set up your brain for the day and see what's going on up there is really great. You can kind of check in with yourself. And then when you see those negative things pop up throughout the day, we can be like, oh, well, I know why I feel this way because this happened. And like, you know, that's what I was thinking earlier in the day. And just being present is amazing. And now T's snoring. Being present is really good because a lot of the times we're worried about so many things that are happening that haven't even happened yet or happened in the past. And I think mindfulness just brings you back to the now and it's just easier to digest. And a lot of the times the evidence that we've come up with, and I just did in quotations, the evidence that we've come up with hasn't even happened. So it's really important to be like, well, what's the evidence now that's happening right in front of me that proves to me that this thought that I'm having is true or not true? I really do encourage like the mindfulness, the meditation, whatever you want to call it, just having a couple minutes to yourself every day just to check in and then practice gratitude. I think that's an amazing way to combat negative thoughts. is to just be grateful for everything. Even if something bad happens, it's like that lucky girl syndrome where you're just like, I'm so happy, or I'm so lucky, or I'm so grateful that that did happen because blah, 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 blah. And it can sound ridiculous, but it does work. Journaling maybe could even help for you to kind of get in touch with yourself and see what's going on in your brain, is just to like journal out a lot of your thoughts, but then to also just journal everything that you're grateful for. I've said this a million times, but again, like, you can't really have all these negative thoughts, emotions, feelings when you're grateful for every little thing that's going on. Small example, a couple days ago, I was making a smoothie and my smoothie is making this crazy noise, and I turn around and there's smoothie everywhere, and I could be upset about that, right? It's like, oh, I have to clean up this whole thing and it's a mess and it's annoying and blah, blah, blah. But it's also like, but I get to eat a smoothie. Like, I get to have this meal. Some people don't even have that privilege. Some people are looking for their next meal, and I get to make my smoothie. So am I really going to get up in arms about, a little bit of a splatter all over the place? Now I have to clean it up. Not a big deal. There's always something to be grateful for. And just practicing gratitude will just become, I think it'll just become natural to you too. The more that you practice gratitude, it's like, you don't have to have that internal conversation with yourself every freaking time. You'll just be better at rolling things off, like shrugging things off. Things will roll off your shoulder a lot easier, if that's the saying. Things will roll off your chest a lot easier, whatever it is, when you just practice gratitude, because you're just more like a laid back state, and you're more just like calm and cool, and you're not worried because everything's fine. Everything's going to work out. And you'll see, like, when you get away from the negativity too, like how draining it actually is. It might be harder at first to be positive, but you'll find in the long run that there's such a more payoff to being positive. It makes life so much more fun. I just couldn't imagine talking to myself in a negative way every single day, or even like talking about other people in a negative way, or gossiping, or just feeling negatively about anything. I just love my silly little life. When things happen, I'm just like, my life is so silly. It's so silly. Like, sometimes I literally just feel like I'm in the back of a car with no seatbelt on, and we're going around the corners, and I'm just like, I'm having fun with it. We're going back and forth. It's not safe. Always have a seatbelt on, but that's my little analogy to the whole thing. Is like, we just are like living a silly little life on this like silly little rock that floats in space. And how dare I have a day that I think that I'm ugly or fat or undeserving or unlovable? That's ridiculous. That's where I'm at with it. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you can switch your internal narrative. You can switch your internal dialogue to something positive, because you deserve positivity, and you should spread positivity. And even if you're not feeling positive one day, I encourage you to still spread positivity and say something nice to somebody, or do something nice for somebody, because that might make you remember that there is positive and good in the world. Good things aren't always happening, but that doesn't mean that you need to make bad situations out of it, or you need to spread more negativity. If something bad happens, try to reverse it. Try to reverse it, flip it around, turn that frown upside down. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really just like flew off the rails with this one. Like, I have no prep, no nothing. I was just like, I didn't even know what I wanted to talk about an hour ago. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I actually did. I'm feeling really positive and happy right now, and I can't wait to talk to you guys next week on another episode of Girl Therapy. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at Nicole Doyan. I'm now posting like really big photo dumps. Thank God Instagram allowed me to post 20 photos at a time now, because 10 was just too limiting. And now I like to put little text over my pictures, because I just feel like there's more emotion behind it and it spreads positivity. So I love that. So make sure you're following me there. TikTok, Nicole_Doyan. Here on YouTube, Nicole Doyan. And Snapchat, Nicole Doyan. But okay, I love you guys so much. We will chat soon. Have a fabulous week. I love you. Bye.